Good evening, friends. We are now trying to learn how much water a crop requires, irrigation schedules, and so on. Already, I have given you some material on this, and now I will try to explain what are the various factors influencing the crop water requirement or irrigation schedules. And also, initially, we try to take up one crop that is called rice or paddy cultivation. How much water are its scheduling we will discuss. So let us talk initially the various factors that are influencing the crop water requirements. For example, you can see irrigation requirements of major crops. Soil moisture is the one factor that is influencing the irrigation schedule. How the soil moisture present in the soil will definitely influence how much water you want to add. After all, irrigation is adding the extra water. So whatever the antecedent soil moisture you have to take into consideration. Maybe there was a rainfall in the earlier day or previous 3 days or 4 days, how much soil moisture is deficient and all we must know. Then only how much water to be applied into the field. Similarly, climatic conditions. The field that is there, which is in what climatic conditions. There are several climatic, for example, we are semi-arid zones, we are Hyderabad in semi-arid zones. It may be even humid zone, the tropical zone, and so on. So, based on the climatic conditions, evapotranspiration depends upon. So, the same crop may require less water in cold climate, while comparing with the hot climate like this, in arid and semi-arid conditions, more water. So, similarly, crop physiological status. This crop physiological status refers to the growth status. As a plant, the crop is having various stages of its growth. At the beginning, it is having a very small size, and the vegetation grows. As it grows, the more water it requires, particularly when it is maturing, and there are certain critical stages. We will explain that, and all those things depends on the crop growth status. That is also water required. So, water requirement depends on the crop physiological status. Similarly, the crop itself means, you see, the rice, for example, or wheat. Rice requires a lot of water compared to the wheat. So, similarly, millets requires very less water. The crop itself is having a lot of difference. That is why applying irrigation water depends on various factors and not limited to these three or four factors. There are several other factors, including quality of irrigation, availability of water itself, and then you know crop, which soil it is there, a highly percolating soil, and so on. So anyway, so let us proceed to the next critical stage of cereal crop growth. Okay, this is the cereal crop means which are the crops that are taken the staple food. For example, rice is a staple food in southern as well as, of course, eastern part of the country. In fact, Southeast Asian nations, it is a staple food, and the wheat is a staple food in northern India and many other places of the world also. So, the critical stages of the crop depends on the various stages which are called critical. What is meant by critical? That means when you if you don't supply, for example, you can see this is written here. When water supply is limited, we must plan in such a way that water is ensured in the critical stages. Otherwise, the yield gets reduced. If you do not provide water during critical stages, this is the one. Substantial yields get reduced. So therefore, in critical stages, we must supply water. For example, what are the critical stages for the tillering for the rice crop? Tillering and flowering in the case of rice, and then crown initiation in the case of wheat. Tillering and flowering means there are branches developed initial stages, that is called tillering, and then in the flowering stage means when in Telugu it is called potta postundi, potta. So when it is a first stage of flowering, and then the entire grains formation and all. So this is the two critical stages. Irrigation requirements of rice, if we can take up. Rice occupies about 40% of the irrigated area in the country. Most of the area, in fact, in the agricultural point of view, out of the all irrigated area, 40% alone is occupied with the rice. And it takes a lot of water to produce 1 kg of rice. You can see we use nearly 1000 liters of water. This is a very high water taking. So this kind of high water taking definitely puts a lot of pressure on water resources. And most of the times this rice, when we are exporting, this much of water we export. This is called virtual water. And mostly lowland rice culture and upland rice culture is there. Actually, in upland or dryland rice culture, we are not practicing much. Just only 5% of the land or agriculture of the rice is under upland, but mostly it is lowland. What is lowland culture? This lowland culture is including first nursery, then puddling, then transplanting, then submergence. Nursery means the seeds are grown in a concentrated plot, very high number, and these are plucked and then transplanted in a puddle environment. So in this puddled environment, that means soil and what is known as water, both are clubbed and then puddled. So then transplanting it occurs, and then water is filled within the plot. That is called submergence. But there is no need of continuous submergence in the plot. That is not necessary. In fact, most of this standing water in the rice is simply weed out the unnecessary plants. It's not really required for the rice. So puddling is made just to not to have much percolation. These are some of the objectives of this process. So when you go for the life cycle, when you understand life cycle of rice plant, you can see here the vegetative phase from seed germination to pinnacle initiation. That's where at the beginning to some kind of around 1 month and so, and then reproductive phase. You can see this reproductive phase from pinnacle initiation to flowering. This is very important. One of the it includes some of the critical days also. So then ripening phase from flowering to full maturity. So this is another. This also includes some of the critical stages. Then this is the Taiwan method of water management of rice. The transplanting of the paddy seedling is done in as shallow water as possible. See, normally when you go to villages, people are farmers, you can see the people are putting knee deep water while planting itself, transplanting itself. This is not required. Actually, you can see the layers of the earthen layers also. It need not be completely submerged. That is the thing. You can save a lot of water in this. Again, 5 to 8 days, you can put 3 to 5 centimeter of standing water. So that is the starting point of standing water. After 5 days, you can put 3 to 5 centimeters of standing water. In fact, it is a somewhat less depth only. Many people put more depth here. From 7th day to 40th to 50th day, almost it is more than 35 days, more than a month. Just 2 to 3 centimeters, very little depth. Okay, you need not put 10 centimeters or so on. So 40th to 50th day, field is drained completely, and you need not put even a millimeter of water. So this is how you should manage the water. And 50th to 70th day, yes, here where the water is required, the pinnacle initiation and all things, that is critical stages, 7 to 10 centimeters. Then 70th to 80th day, just only 3 centimeters. So actually the maximum depth of water applied is here only. And again in the 80th to 90th day, here is again heading. That means uh, Pottadasha and the Palu Boskune Dasha. Water is completely drained 7 days before harvesting. This is very important because you have to have agricultural operations to be completed. If you have a water, you cannot complete agricultural operation. That is harvesting operations. Okay. Then water saving techniques in paddy cultivation. This is very important in the sense what kind of soils and the management techniques are needed to save the water. For example, heavy soils are selected. Heavy soils are selected. Heavy means the clay content, and then already we have talked about loamy soils. That is heavy soils, and the percolation rate should be less than 5 mm. 5 mm per day. Large block cultivation is encouraged. Seepage is proportional to perimeter. You cannot have a, small plots because the seepage is directly proportional to the perimeter. Mostly this perimeter get reduced when you have higher plots, higher size plots. Scrupulous land leveling, because if you want to maintain equal 3 centimeters, 5 centimeters throughout the plot, the leveling is very much. And then puddling to reduce the permeability. Already we have talked about this. Puddling of the soil and water. That is mixed both soil and water, and then puddling is made in the plot just to reduce the permeability. If the percolation is more, treat the field with 1 or 2% bentonite with the small quantities of sodium chloride and sodium carbonate. This treatment process will also improve your soil retention, water retention capacity. And then compacting the soil, embedding polyethylene sheets. This is a costly affair, but it will by applying some chemicals also, it will prevent the soil. So another thing is that drainage also you have to think of, because we have to drain the water throughout the not throughout, at particular points of time. So poorly drained clay soils have the rate of percolation less than 2.5 mm per day. This is not suitable again. So these are the some of the precautions we have to talk. We have to be there. We have to take care of. Then the water is saved very much. Because this is how the rice cultivation or paddy cultivation is one of the most important. So we'll stop here, and we'll go to